It was a calm and humid evening in late July at King's Estate, an upscale residential area nestled in the heart of Edo State. Nigeria families had just begun to settle in for the night after another long day. Children were playing in the street, the smell of dinner wafted from the kitchens, and the quiet hum of generators filled the air for the residents. It seemed like just another peaceful evening in the neighborhood, but they had no idea that a nightmare was about to unfold. Over the past few months, there have been murmurs about issues with the estate's drainage system. The estate, though newly developed, was built in an area prone to heavy rainfall, and the poor construction of its drainage channels meant that water from several streets would pool at the lowest points. Some residents had complained about stagnant water and a rising stench, but nothing serious had ever been done. Contractors had come, taken a few notes, and left. A few assurances were made, but that was where it ended. Then came that fateful night. A downpour began around p.m. heavy and relentless at first. No one was alarmed after all. They were used to the rain in this part of the country, but this storm was different. In less than 2 hours, the rain intensified into a deluge, turning streets into rivers. King's Estate, built in a depression, was at the center of what was quickly becoming a disaster zone. By p.m., the drainage system had collapsed entirely. The water, instead of being channeled away, began to flow back into the streets, bursting through manholes and flooding homes. Residents rushed to move their belongings to higher ground, but the water was rising too quickly. Within minutes, entire streets were submerged in waist-deep, murky water. The scene was terrifying. Families trapped in their homes could hear the cries of others in the distance, but there was little anyone could do. The estate's power supply had been cut off, and the only lights came from flashlights or mobile phones. In the darkness, snakes and other dangerous animals, flushed from their habitats, slithered through the water. The smell of sewage filled the air as toilets backed up, spilling their contents into the floodwaters. One particular family, the Ojo family, had moved into the estate just 3 months prior, seeking peace and comfort in what they believed was a high-standard residential area. They had 2 young children, ages 6 and 4. That night, as the water level in their home rose to chest height, they scrambled to the attic, hoping the flood would subside. The father, in a desperate attempt to save his family, tried to wade through the water to get help. He never returned. As the hours dragged on, the situation grew more dire. In some homes, electrical fires broke out as water seeped into sockets, causing short circuits. Explosions from nearby transformers echoed through the estate, adding to the panic. Some families tried to evacuate in their cars, but the waterlogged streets made driving impossible. Many vehicles were abandoned, left floating, or overturned in the flood. By the early hours of the morning, rescue teams arrived, but access was limited. Boats had to be brought in to evacuate those stranded on rooftops or trapped in their homes. Several people were missing, including the Ojo family's father, whose body was later found several kilometers away, caught in debris carried by the flood. In the aftermath, the estate was a shadow of its former self. Homes were destroyed, streets torn apart, and cars damaged beyond repair. Worse still, the estate had become a breeding ground for disease, with mosquitoes thriving in the stagnant water and residents falling ill from contaminated water. The authorities conducted a brief investigation but failed to take any meaningful action. The developers had cut corners, prioritizing profit over safety, and now families were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. King's Estate, once a symbol of modern living, had turned into a scene of horror. Families mourned lost loved ones, children were scarred by the trauma, and homeowners faced the painful reality of rebuilding in an area now marked by tragedy. The environmental hazard that had long been ignored had finally come crashing down, and the toll it took was devastating. Property and facility management perspective. From a property and facility management standpoint, the King's Estate disaster highlights significant lapses in planning, maintenance, and oversight. The estate's drainage system was poorly designed and incapable of handling heavy rainfall, which is a predictable issue in the region. The failure to regularly inspect and maintain critical infrastructure, such as drainage and sewage systems, directly led to the catastrophic flooding. Additionally, there was no contingency plan for emergencies like flooding, leaving residents unprotected and vulnerable. Effective property management should prioritize preventive maintenance, quality control, and emergency preparedness to safeguard residents from such disasters. Moral perspective. Morally, the tragedy raises deep ethical concerns about negligence, greed, and the duty of care. The developers and estate managers failed in their moral obligation to ensure the safety of the residents. Cutting corners to maximize profits at the expense of building proper drainage infrastructure reflects a disregard for human life. Furthermore, the failure to act on early warnings and complaints from residents shows a lack of compassion and responsibility. Morally, this disaster calls for a re-evaluation of the values driving real estate development and a commitment to putting human well-being before profit. Legal perspective. Legally, the developers and facility managers could be held liable for gross negligence. Building in a flood-prone area without adequate drainage systems constitutes a violation of building codes and standards. The residents could seek legal recourse for compensation due to the loss of life, property damage, and trauma caused by the disaster. The government also has a legal responsibility to enforce stricter regulations and ensure compliance to avoid future occurrences. In this case, both civil and criminal lawsuits could be pursued against the developers and any regulatory bodies that failed in their duty to inspect and approve the estate. Lessons learned. Importance of infrastructure planning. Developers and property managers must prioritize quality infrastructure, especially in flood-prone regions. Proper drainage systems and water management are crucial. Regular maintenance and inspections. Preventive maintenance is key. Regular inspections can help identify potential risks before they escalate into disasters. Emergency preparedness. Estates should have emergency response plans, including evacuation protocols and disaster management strategies to protect residents during unforeseen events. Accountability in real estate. Developers and property managers should be held accountable for the safety and welfare of residents, ensuring that regulations are followed and public safety is a priority. Government oversight. Strict enforcement of building codes and environmental regulations is essential to prevent avoidable tragedies like this. If you find this story enlightened, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel for more content on property, facility, and real estate management business tips. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. God bless you.